If we know one thing about this market in the month of March, we said it was going to be traps everywhere, and that looks like what we're getting. We called there's a trap here. We called there's going to be a trap here. We called this trap here. We thought there was going to be a trap somewhere up in here. That ended up happening, and now we have this right here where everyone tried to put on the big short, which ended up turning into the big trap. If you know live video, we do live video every single morning. And over down here, we were just looking at Max Pain, and it showed that we had a 3-to-1 put to call ratio at this point right here before open today. And that is why I started to turn into a contrarian. And make sure you watch the video towards the very end, because Meta gave us a huge hint for this bounce today, and that's why I took a little fun trade on NVIDIA, and we're going to talk about NVIDIA because it might be setting up the next big trap. So let's get into some technical analysis for the SPY, Qs, Apple, Tesla, Amazon, NVIDIA, AMD, and we're going to look at Meta because that really helped us out today. Let's get into it. First things first, we need to get you guys those daily expected moves. That'd be 520.05 to the upside for the SPY and 513.57 to the downside for the SPY. So once again, we're back to a regular sized move. CPI had a big move for the day, and we see that big move. We actually ended the day right below that daily expected move. So this was a good point if you were a day trading or something to take profit. Those are very, very useful. But I'm glad to give them to you guys today so we can pay attention to these going into tomorrow. And the thing I wanted to mention on the MACD down here is we do have a bunch of divergences here on the MACD. We only have that triple divergence really down here on the RSI. Now we'll notice that this divergence hasn't really fully been formed yet. That point is between these. So we could see more bullishness come in, and will we see that resistance around that daily expected move, or are we going to go all the way up to the weekly? We could go all the way up to the monthly if we wanted to get bullish. Be careful if that starts to wick out. Now, this is an hourly chart. I wanted to flip over to a 2-hour because I really like my 2-hour charts. I really like these 2-hour divergences when I'm looking for an overall top in this market. I really like to look at 2 hours for points to pay attention to. This would be one of those points. Look at those divergences down here. Now you do have this divergence here and then flatness, but you do have a divergence across this way. So you really just don't want to come above this RSI. You don't want to come above this MACD. So what we could be seeing as of tomorrow, because I just wanted to point this out, is we actually could see some kind of reaction down. I'm going to show you guys that 5-minute chart to show you guys what I'm looking at, 5 or 15. And then we could get another reaction up, possibly to test the top here of that weekly expected move right before our next rock in our river here. That would be PPI. CPI today came out, a lot of people coming in and saying, hey, this is bad news. Why is the market going up? I quickly just broke down the CPI for you guys. It is not necessarily the worst news, and I'll actually touch on that right now. Okay, so CPI, I just wanted to point out the overall mentality of probably most of the people in the market when they read this CPI data. Okay, so we have core inflation rate month over month, supposed to come in at 0.3 and supposed to come in at 0.3 for the forecast as well. That ended up coming in at 0.4. Well, someone could sit there and say to themselves, they say, oh yeah, it came in at 0.4. At least it didn't tick up from the previous month. You notice how I can spin it into a slightly positive thing. Convince myself to stay bullish. Core inflation rate year over year coming in at 3.8. Expected to come 3.7 or 3.8. So that came in as expected, and then I tell myself, oh, this is bullish because it came below the previous month's 3.9. So that could be another way that people are convincing themselves. Inflation rate month over month coming in at 0.4. Previous was 0.3. Oh no, the previous was 0.3. That could be bad because that's ticking up. Oh wait, we kind of expected that. We had a consensus on this to get 0.4% increase in inflation rate month over month. So maybe that's something I don't really need to worry about. Nothing to sell about. Inflation rate year over year, 3.2. Previous was 3.1. Oh gosh, the consensus on this was 3.1, but the forecast was 3.2. So this isn't that surprising either. So when you really think about it in the mentality of some of these people out there trading, maybe the overall herd that you would call them, or that Ron Walker would call them, you really start to think, oh, they can convince themselves with this kind of data that it's an okay thing. These need to tick up like more dramatically by a few more points in order for you to actually see a sell-off in the overall market because of the CPI. What does that mean we can expect into tomorrow? Well, we didn't get that rip away at the end of the day. So the big boys didn't come in at the end of the day and rip it away. Now we could see some selling going on in tomorrow because if I pull up a 15-minute chart here, you're going to notice there is some 15-minute divergences here. Okay, so we have a 15-minute divergence. It hasn't necessarily confirmed to the downside at this point, but You notice these highs up here, we do have those divergences. We have that opportunity to go into negative territory and break through the daily expected move with some kind of maybe black swan or bad news coming out. Use that as resistance at that point to then head lower, because we do end 68% of the time up here, but 32% of the time we can see something crazy happen outside of these lines. Now, that's not what I'm leaning towards. I really think we're actually going to see a little bit of selling maybe in the morning and then try to come back up by end of day and test one of these 3 lines. I really think we're going to hit one of them as of tomorrow, and I think this MACD is going to curl down, curl right back up. Today, I just wanted to tell you guys exactly what I'm thinking, and that's what I'm thinking is going to happen. I think we're going to get some kind of pullback and then push to higher levels, maybe coming above this point on the MACD, but keeping this divergence right here on the MACD, okay? I think we're going to keep this divergence, see some kind of pop higher over time here, and then see that kind of ripped away, possibly with PPI. Maybe PPI does just have us consolidate and head even a little bit higher, go and test that monthly going into next week, and then we have to pay attention to the 20th because we do have that Fed rate decision. So we have a bunch of rocks in our river at this point, in our stream, and we have to figure out which way the stream is going after we see those rocks in the middle of them. Because once we figure out which direction the stream is going, we can just go that direction and not end up in a sewer or something like that. Now, this would confirm this divergence over time if we did get some bad news down the line and get this into negative territory, but that's what you're waiting for. This market can continue to go up and up if this just keeps curling back up in positive territory. We need this to drop down below before we start to think about putting in something like a 3-to-1 put to call ratio. Hopping into the Qs, we have a little bit bigger range for the Qs, but not that much, really not that much compared to today. So 447.39 to the upside, and we have 439.97 to the downside for those daily expected moves. These have been very, very helpful for myself, and you'll notice the weekly expected moves, how useful they are when we get to meta, so stick around for that because that's the last stock we do cover, but it really helped us out with today's bounce. Okay, so what we want to pay attention to here, what were we watching live? We were just saying, hey, if this 30-minute crosses down here, good sign that we're going to see positivity. Look at that. It crossed up, got into positive territory just like. We see that positivity come in. From there, we start looking at the hourly saying, okay, now if this crosses up, we can hold on and be a little bit more bullish here. And then if the 2-hour crosses up, guess what? You're in positive territory. Most likely this will head higher. We are closing towards the high of the day. You have that opportunity to gap higher. So pay attention if we gap above this, because we could get a gap and go, head up towards that weekly expected move. But remember, this is all that the options market has priced in for the entire week. So this might be a point where I even myself start to think about taking profits. But this doesn't have to happen right away. We notice on the 15-minute for the Qs as well, we do have a slight divergence here. We actually could consolidate in the morning and then see that pop higher throughout the day. So that is something to pay attention to. We will be watching this stuff live tomorrow morning, so do join us back here. I know some people said, I never know when you're going live. Turn on those notifications and make sure you're subscribed so that you can join us, or just go into my channel every single morning around opening time, because that's when we usually go live. So we want to pay attention to this, but I really think we have a good shot to consolidate down in the morning before heading higher. Wouldn't be surprised if we gap. I just want to see if we gap a really big gap above this level. Do we use that as support to head higher? Well, if we gap a little bit below that, we can still use it as resistance, sorry about that, to head lower. So to finish up on the Qs here, I just wanted to point out the 2-hour and say if we did get some kind of bullish move, I really think we could see the top side of the weekly expected move tested. But for sure, maybe tomorrow we actually do come see the top side tested at this point. This is a very bullish move. If there's no bad news behind this, we might get some consolidation, then start to head a little bit higher. But we overall did see this cup. This could be our handle at this point. We could head higher. So the thing about the MACD, you just don't want to violate this right here. This point here, we really want to see that divergence showing off before some big event. That would give us a little hint like, hey, where the momentum is really weak here, and we could see a very negative reaction to the PPI if it comes out bad for the market. I'm really leaning towards either the PPI or the Fed rate decision at this point. Apple on the 15-minute, as we get into it here, I really would like it to get up into this zone. It doesn't have to, but I think that is plausible at this point. So I want to pay attention to the 15-minute MACD here, just show you guys how It looks like it's about to cross over. We could see some selling into tomorrow, but if that curls back up in positive territory, we could see more positivity come in the market, and maybe that creates some kind of divergence up near this zone by end of day. That's something I'm paying attention to. The other thing that really doesn't have me happy here about Apple is this 2 hours still creeping up towards that positive territory, but every time that we get close to that positive territory, you have to be weary. This could be a strong move, but if that turns right back around, we could curl up into positive, turn right down into negative, and maybe we set up a divergence in the future for Apple to get a more sustainable bounce. There's no real divergences down here, so if we get up to an area where sellers could step in, this is where they stepped in last time, right? So we have to pay attention to that. Pay attention if this MACD is able to come up into positive territory and remain there. That would be a bullish thing, but if it wants to pop up for a moment and curl back down into negative territory, good shot that you're going to see this low at least tested, and we might even make a new low. Amazon, in yesterday's video, we were talking about how we have this consolidated. We really do. We have some flagging going on here. It's just a little bit, more bigger swings in price action flag. But this is still a flag at this point. We're curling up on the 2 hour into positive territory, seeing that kind of consolidate, not losing any moving averages by end of day. We could see this break to the upside. So let's pay attention if that break does happen to the upside, because that's going to be pretty important for Amazon. Amazon, I would really be paying attention to if you're a Patreon member. Really pay attention to those weekly expected moves to the upside for all of these stocks that we're covering and all the stocks that we give you on Patreon. And if you do want to join the Patreon, you can go look down in the link in the description where we did post while it was during the trading day. We actually showed off the meta hint that really said, hey, there's potential upside for today, and it really helped us out. On Amazon, we were talking about this potentially heading higher by coming up to this point and then creating some kind of right shoulder. We have left, we have a head here, and then we have an inverse right shoulder if that was going to happen. Now, we could still see that upside. We could just be building liquidity here to get a strong move. So we still could see that strong move out the gate, but if we wanted to drop down to lower levels first, maybe test this low, that'd be perfectly fine for Amazon. Maybe we actually get some kind of subtle divergence down here. That kind of helps us out and gives us a little trade. So just pay attention to Amazon. It is having a decent move. 2% in a day is a decent move, but there is potential here for it to fall and then come back up. So really pay attention to that, because if it doesn't have enough liquidity here, it might dip a little lower into this area where we've seen buyers step in a few times and then want to break through. Tesla, I think this is going to struggle to come up at this point. Yes, we do have that daily divergence. We have that potential for a big move down here on the daily scale if we can get that big positivity. The thing is, I don't have many divergences on the 2 hour, anything like that going on. We've hovered below my point of 180.92 for quite some time now, and we notice that people really have rotated out of Tesla and been trading into NVIDIA. A lot of Tesla traders have gone over to the NVIDIA side of things, joined the dark side, I guess. Now, the thing that's a little bit worrisome, even if Tesla does get a good move, you need this 2 hour to still make up a lot of ground to get into positive territory. Pretty much from here, if you get some kind of pop and that just curls over, good shot you're taking out this low, at least testing it, maybe making a new one, and then maybe we can get that divergence on the 2 hour in the future to give us that more sustainable bounce, that bigger signal that the hourly or the daily chart is going to curl over. We know there's a divergence there. So there could be a big move coming in Tesla. I'm just saying, hey, it could maybe take a little bit more time before that big move actually happens. And now we are getting into the big fish, the NVIDIA, okay? NVIDIA is a very, very highly traded stock, very, very expensive. It's pretty much the most weight in the queues as of right now, so you have to pay attention to what NVIDIA is doing throughout the trading day, and that's why we were watching it so much on the live video this morning. So make sure to join us for those live videos, turn those notifications on so you know when we go live. But we overall were stating here, yes, that this did dip down, but it dipped down right to the level where we expected at least some kind of bounce to make a right shoulder, and this could be a right shoulder, but this is a very strong move at this point. You're curling over a bunch of moving averages. So the reason that we were overall bullish on this is because of mainly two things, and we're going to get into Meta in a second. Meta was one of those things telling us the risk to reward based on those weekly expected moves that we give out on Patreon, and then also the amount of puts that were coming into the market, and you know people are trying to short NVIDIA, and this is where it gets dangerous, because if you have enough people shorting shorting NVIDIA and then you see an upward move, they can start to get squeezed. So if more people are still holding their shorts at this time, we can continue to squeeze and see NVIDIA actually get to $1,000 price point. We really can. And I said that live. I was like, I really think NVIDIA actually could get to $1,000. That could happen. Now, what this would do. So on the live stream, we were stating, hey, next you want to look at this 2 hour if we see that continued strength through the rest of the day. I had to go take care of my baby girl and that kind of thing. But if this is able to curl up early in the morning, looks like we're getting that positivity as of right now, we could be getting a divergence on the 2 hour on NVIDIA. Is NVIDIA's divergence going to hint that there is going to be weakness in the overall stock up at these levels? Well, at this point, you would maybe then say this might be our left shoulder. Maybe we're about to go make the big head over here, and then we create that right shoulder in the future. That would be a very interesting way to set up, and you really would fake out the bears down here, you'd come up, you'd fake out bulls up here, and then you'd come down pretty quickly, you'd fake out bears down here, and then you fake out bulls again. So I told you that March was going to be a month of traps, and that is what is happening right now. And if you're very, very skilled and you're able to trade like water, you can make a lot of money in a market like this. And that's where, if you want to learn a lot of these things, go down in the description and look at my course. It is 50% off for the whole month of March. It's only $100, and that's very, very good. It'll teach you about these indicators, how to use them, and you can use them for a bullish market. But at the end, I give you a bear market strategy. And because we are going into a bear market most likely in this year of 2024, I would really, really highly encourage you guys to take that course, because it gives you a strategy that is very, very beneficial. Really, you just want to pay attention to if we create some kind of divergence when that bullishness comes in the Patreon, you can pay attention to those weekly ranges. Now, AMD, very similar look, but not as much strength down here. We really thought this didn't have that much strength as of today, but we could see that strength come in later as of tomorrow. So if we do see that strength come in, see this MACD curl up, we could be getting a very bullish move for a few days and then see some kind of divergence up here that would really help you out on AMD. So on AMD and NVIDIA, you really want to pay attention to some kind of upside, and you want to create a level to really pay attention to, and that's where those weekly ranges can come in handy. So make sure you are paying attention to your weekly ranges for AMD and NVIDIA. Now we're going to show you guys Meta. Meta really told us something early on throughout the week, and this is what I posted to Patreon during trading hours. Okay, so when I do see things that are interesting, I post it, and over here I did say, hey, this dipped outside of it. You guys know this was my short play up here, and I actually took profit right at this low. Okay, right here I thought we might start to head up, get some kind of right shoulder, right, left, head, right shoulder. So I get out of my position. We're heading towards that weekly expected move, and boom, we hit it. We actually break through it. We buy back up and we trickle right around it, touching it one more time. Now this 15-minute was able to get into positive territory, and that was a little bit of a trigger for you. If you wanted to do this on like a micro level, you might look at a 5-minute and see if that's able to curl up into positive territory. Boom, you see it curls up into positive territory right here, and we're off to the races. Meta's making a big move up. So Meta told us, hey, this is all the options market has priced in for the entire week, and I'm already there, which can be a big signal. And that's why you want to pay attention to multiple stocks and multiple weekly ranges, because you can get hints like this. Meta said, hey, I'm coming down really fast, but this is all the options market has expected, and I have that 68% chance to end back in this zone. So it might be a time to actually say the reward here is up and the risk is not that much to the downside. Thing about Meta, it was able to come down a little bit more on this MACD, but it's still right near positive territory. So if we do see that positivity come in tomorrow, we can go all the way up to a point of 528.40. I really think we actually could get there. Maybe we wick out like we did over in this area. So this area up here is where I'm going to be paying attention again for Meta, and if that curls up right here, you'll notice we have another point of divergence going to be formed, and that would hold true across right here. So on Meta, you do have divergences across the board, really telling you that this thing could shift at any moment, but we haven't been able to get into negative territory. Last thing that really gave us a hint going on into today was that divergence we saw up here on the VIX. When you have divergence on the VIX and you have things like Meta hitting its weekly range, the bottom side of that, you can really see things start to go back to the bull side. So this is people getting a little bit fearful, but there wasn't a ton of fear in the market. We saw that kind of fading. Once we see that crossover on the 2-hour, we know, hey, this thing is going to start to go up. So this thing is breaking down. We can come down and fill this gap as of tomorrow at 1343. We could come all the way down to a reading of 13 to fill this gap way down here. So we need to pay attention to that. The thing about the VIX is it was not down by more than 10%. So you do not have that 85% chance of a down day in the next 2 trading sessions. So when the VIX is actually up or down by 10%, so if it's up by 10%, that means you have a 85% chance of a green day over the next 2 trading sessions. And if it is down by 10%, you have an 85% chance of a red day in the market in the next 2 trading sessions. That is a very good note to have, and we talk about that in the course. So really look at this, but we called this pretty well at this point. Look if the 2-hour curls over. Now we're paying attention if that wants to base out and curl back up. Does it cross and get back into positive territory? That's what we are going to be paying attention to end of tomorrow and most likely going on into next week. As far as a crash happening tomorrow, this is what becomes unlikely at this point. Now, something crazy can happen. Don't take that off the table, right? We want to be aware of anything. This 50 is still creeping closer and closer to that 200. That is a big crash signal if that's able to cross. But right now, we don't have any of our check marks. We've lost a bunch of moving averages. We do have the 50 still, but we lost a bunch of moving averages up here. We need that green closing bar above the 200 first off, and then after that, we want to make sure, hey, we're in positive territory. So this could curl down for a couple days. Look for that to curl back up, because every time that we curl back up, we see a little spike in volatility, okay? So pay attention to this. If it wants to curl down, we could see that bullishness for a little bit, but maybe we just come down into this point where we've seen pops of volatility in the past, and this could be the area where we see that next pop. So I just wanted you to be aware that the crash signals aren't necessarily on right now, but how stocks look, we still have to be cautious over the next few days. So the main takeaway for this video is we knew there would be a bunch of traps in March, and that's why we need to trade like water. In this day, yesterday actually, we got a big trap. People got very bearish, and we noticed some signals that we actually posted out on Patreon that said, hey, maybe we need to start thinking the other way, because a lot of people are bearish in this market, which invites some kind of squeeze if we hold at higher prices. So be careful out there. Just because we're seeing an upside move does not mean this will continue forever. The things that are out there in the economy are not looking good, and if we just see an actual piece of correct bad news come out, bad enough to really shake up the mentality of a lot of these traders, we can see a downward move in the overall market. And once we actually do get that downward move, if we keep going higher, it's going to be more and more dramatic. And all you can do in the shorter time frames is trade it back and forth, trade like water, and make sure to always be moving with your positions. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Make sure to go down in the description. Look for that. Look for the Patreon if you want to join that and get those weekly ranges. They are very helpful. And then if you want to learn some of this stuff, go down there, because there is a very good course, and it is 50% off for the month of March. At the end of March, I believe we might be in that bear market, and we might be raising that price up to $200. All right. So be careful out there. Make sure to trade like water. I wish you guys all the luck in the world trading, and I will see you live tomorrow morning. But for now, have a good night. Peace.